Hello, I'm Vivian Liu, Associate Product Manager for Catalyst at BookNet Canada. Before we begin, BookNet Canada acknowledges that its operations are remote and our colleagues contribute their work from the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wyandot, the Mi'kmaq, the Ojibwe of Fort William First Nation, the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, which includes the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi, and the Métis, the original nations and peoples of the lands we now call Beaton, Brampton, Guelph, Halifax, Thunder Bay, Toronto, Vaughan, and Windsor. We encourage you to visit the native-land.ca website to learn more about the people whose land you are joining from today. Moreover, BookNet endorses the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada and supports an ongoing shift from gatekeeping to space-making in the book industry. The book industry has long been an industry of gatekeeping. Anyone who works at any stage of the book supply chain carries a responsibility to serve readers by publishing, promoting, and supplying works that represent the wide extent of human experiences and identities in all that complicated intersectionality. We at BookNet are committed to working with our partners in the industry as we move towards a framework that supports space making, which ensures that marginalized creators and professionals all have the opportunity to contribute, work, and lead. Thank you for joining me today for the update on what's new in CataList. Today, we'll take a look at the improvements we've made to CataList over the past year, and we'll share what we have planned in the coming months. Let's start with a feature that has quickly become a favorite on the site, and those are the quick actions. Last year, we added a new set of buttons that will let you manage the titles in the catalog directly from any of the catalog's views. On this slide, we have a screenshot of a title in a catalog scrolling view, and there are three new buttons following the title information. First, we have a red plus sign overlapping the icon of a piece of paper, and to the right of it is a similar button, but instead of a plus sign, we have a blue arrow pointing to the right. And finally, we have a white X in a red circle. And so in order from left to right, these are the copy, move, and delete buttons. The copy button will let you copy this title to a custom catalog that you have access to edit. It's a redesigned button of the Add to Catalog feature, and you might be familiar with that one if you've used Catalyst in the past. The Move button is available if you are viewing a custom catalog that you can edit. This feature lets you move the title from the current custom catalog into another custom catalog. And the delete button needs no introduction. You can click on this button to delete the title from the catalog. The title itself will still be available on Catalyst in case you want to add it to another catalog. You can view these three buttons in any of the three catalog views. On the next slide here, you can see that in the thumbnail and scrolling view, we have the buttons and they are lined up horizontally just below the title information. In the grid view, it's a little different as the data here is more compact. So in this view, you would hover over a title and then you would see the quick actions towards the right-hand side of the grid. As part of this redesign, we've also added checkboxes to each of the titles in catalogs. This way you can perform one of these actions on more than one title at a time. So on the next slide here, we have a screenshot showing the thumbnail view when you selected more than one title. And there's a message that displays on your screen to let you know how many titles you've selected, and you can also see the available actions that you can perform for all of those selected titles. You can also move this message around the screen or collapse it so that it's not in your way as you are selecting your titles. Many of our regular site users have also shared with us that they really love the new quick actions. We've seen comments that it's been a game changer, that it's been fitting into their workflows, that it has been saving them time, And we're we're very happy to hear all of this feedback from our users. We've also done some work on the panel that displays when you're choosing which custom catalog you're adding a title to, as you can see on this next slide here. We've made this change wherever you are able to add titles to custom catalogs. So that includes the search results page and when you are viewing an individual title. The options are more organized and easier to navigate. So if you selected more than one title, there is also a bit of text at the top that tells you exactly how many titles you've selected. In this example, on this slide, we have 4 items selected to be copied to another catalog. We've included an additional checkbox right below that text for you to indicate if you want to include a title's suggested order quantities when you copy it to another custom catalog. This option is available when you are copying or moving titles from within a custom catalog, which is where you could find suggested order quantities that a sales rep has entered. The other options are the same as those available in the previous version of this panel, though we've rearranged and redesigned some of the elements. For example, we've moved up the option to create a new custom catalog, and we've made it look more like a button. Below that, you have the search bar so that you can quickly find the custom catalogs that you want to add these titles to. And finally, we show the list of all of your custom catalogs. Now, because there are more options and actions available in the panel, we've made it so that once you have chosen the custom catalog by clicking on it, you would then have to click the copy or move button to complete the action. And once you do, there is another message that appears, and this one you can see on the right-hand side of the slide. The new message appears with a link that takes you directly to the catalog where you had copied or moved the titles. And this was one of the bigger features that we've worked on last year, but we've also made a few other changes to the site as well, which I will now talk about. So on the next slide, on my page, we've made it clearer to publishers who exactly has access to view the custom catalogs that they've published. We have here an example of 4 different custom catalogs that are listed in the table on my page, and you can see the recipients for each of them in the recipients column. Now, publishers can make a custom catalog available to specific individuals on CataList either by adding the individual as a recipient, or you can add recipients by adding the contact list as a recipient. Publishers can also make a custom catalog available to everyone who visits the site, and this is where we've made a change. In the recipients column, we now display the label everyone if the custom catalog is publicly available. And so this helps publishers differentiate between catalogs that have and have not yet been shared with the recipients. Let's shift to talk about some of the changes we've made to the search tools on CataList. On this slide, we have a screenshot of the quick search with a search phrase bucket of stars filled into the search bar, and there are quotation marks around the phrase. I'll get to those quotation marks in just a moment. For now, let's focus on the search options that we have here next to the search bar. This list used to include options to help you search for books or catalogs, or you could enter a list of ISBNs and run that search for those titles. For this list, we've added filters so that you could immediately filter your results to return only print products or digital products when you are searching for titles. We've also moved the ISBN list search out of the list so that it's easier for you to access. It's now positioned just left of the saved search link. Now, about those quotation marks, you can use them around your search phrase on CataList to find exact matches to that phrase. You can use it to find an exact match on a book title, a contributor, or even a subject category heading. It also works for parameters in an advanced search, which we've also updated with other changes last year. So over to the next slide, we have an image of the advanced search form. We've highlighted on the image the 3 areas of the form that we've updated, and we will talk about each one of them individually. So over to the next slide. The first change that we've made to the advanced search form is a new parameter. And you can access this parameter in the top left section of the form. This new option, the title/series option, lets you use a single parameter to search for 2 pieces of data that may have similar or even the same content. It's useful in cases where you aren't sure if what you're looking for is the title or the series. On the next slide, we have here one of the new filters that we've added to the middle section of the advanced search form. The first one here is an accessible products filter, which lets you search the site for just titles that include accessibility data. On the left-hand side of the slide, we have a screenshot of that new checkbox, which is located just after the existing Canadian authors checkbox. And over to the right-hand side of the slide, we have here an image of the new accessibility refined facet that we've added to the search results. Once you've run a search, you can use the accessibility filter to narrow down your results to just include titles that have specific accessibility features, or those that comply with a specific standard, or those that include contact details. And finally, on the next slide, we have a new section in the advanced search form for custom catalog filters. This filter in particular is currently only available to publishers. In this section, publishers can choose to limit their advanced search to items that are either in their private or collaborative custom catalogs, or titles that are not in any of their custom catalogs. We've also released a feature that was highly requested last year. On CataList, those who participate in sales data can already see sales information for comparable titles linked to a title. Now we've added to the integration so that sales data participants can also see the on-hand and on-order information for the title that they are viewing on CataList. On this slide, we have an example of what that looks like. Our team is actually in the middle of building this feature as I record this. So what I have here is a mock-up, but by the time you see this presentation, the feature will be available on CataList. And though this mock-up is not the final version, it does have all of the elements that we are aiming to include. And so we have here a new table under the heading called Current Title. It's located just above the comparable titles table and includes the ISBN, the title of the book, the numbers for on hand and on order. It includes the date of first sale, the numbers for the title's first 8 weeks, first 13 weeks, and its lifetime sales. There are additional columns that you may have access to view depending on your account type. For example, retailers with sales data access can see this information for their own stores, while sales representatives have wider access to see more information that applies to the store that they have selected to view. If you have access to sales data, you could log into CataList and take a look at this feature yourself. If you want to know more about new features as they become available, you can sign up for our newsletter to keep up to date. Now, over to the next slide. In terms of design improvements, we've made a few changes to the catalog toolbar header this year. If you create orders on CataList, you will notice that we've redesigned the order summary so that you have more information right at your fingertips. You no longer have to expand the section to switch the order or to see the number of unique titles that you've added to your order. You can see all of that right here, right on the screen. We've also shifted the draft label slightly so that the catalog toolbar is more focused on the most important features that you may need access to. Over to the next slide, let's talk about some performance improvements that we've made to the site. So we've made some performance improvements to a few key areas. The sales data reports on Catalyst are now loaded much quicker. We've also made improvements to publishing large catalogs so that that process is easier. And search results take less time to load. In improving the search result load times, we've also made structural changes to the way we store some of the key title data. And this is an exciting step forward for us because there may be opportunities to extend some of these performance improvements to other areas of the site in the future. And so we will continue to work on improving the site performance. On the next slide, we have some of the features and goals that Catalyst will work towards this year. We are working on a new feature that will allow publishers to upload and manage full previews of children's books in PDF format, and publishers will also have the ability to set up a whitelist of individual Catalyst users who are allowed to view these previews. We've spoken internally and externally with our user group to refine the details of this feature. We've discussed exactly what should be included in it, how it will look, and what it will be called. We're very close to starting development for this feature. Aside from new features, we're also paying attention to how the industry is using new fields, such as thema regional codes. We're taking note of how contributor and contributor location data is coming in and making sure that we're supporting those elements. And to end on a high note, we've started switching publishers on Catalyst over to Onyx 3. The Catalyst team has been working away at testing the data, making sure that it shows up as expected, and switching the data from Onyx 2.1 to Onyx 3 on a publisher by publisher basis. We expect this transition to be completed in the coming year. And that's it. As always, thank you for supporting Catalyst. If you have any questions about regionality or Onyx 3 or anything at all, get in touch with us at catalyst@booknetcanada.ca. We're always happy to talk about how we see data being used in the industry and how we can help. Thank you.